Hello drivers, welcome to another longer form video. They don't do as well, but some of you are watching and I appreciate that. So let's talk about something that I've recently spoken with you about, and that's liability. I said in a recent video that the two people or groups that actually take on the most liability are the owners / corporation and the drivers, and that the drivers take on the real serious hefty part of the liability, because man, if we do something wrong, or even if we don't, boy, are they going to come after us. And then I had a discussion with safety about certain things, about hours of service regulations and stuff like that. It was a very productive conversation in that it was a satisfying conversation. Not in that I got what I wanted, but that the conversation in and of itself was satisfying. I enjoy a good conversation. And while we were talking about that, I said, look, I kind of said a little bit of what I said in that liability video. It's like, look, the drivers, it's the corporation or the owner, depending on the situation, the drivers that truly take on the liability here. And when we're out on the road and we're in a situation that is put on us by dispatch or planning or whatever you want to call it, and we're stuck at a dock and then have to find parking because we can't stay there, or we can't find parking after several places, spending a whole hour, and we go to one truck stop, no parking, another truck stop, no parking. And what I mean by no parking is like not even creative parking. And then, closed rest areas, some of which you can actually go online and see if a rest area is going to be closed, and some not so much. And then you finally find a parking space, but you're running out of hours of service. Yeah. So when they don't allow us to use the federal guidelines, the regulations that are permitted in our electronic logs, that is not a safe situation, because now a lot of us, what we are is we're in a stressed situation. We're stressed out. And that's basically what, I was talking to him about. I didn't get what I wanted, but in the end, I kind of understand why. I don't know if I'm going to talk about that today or not. What I am going to talk about is when he came back at me and says, what are you talking about? We all take on a degree of liability. If something happens and there's a big lawsuit and there's a big shutdown, we'll all lose our jobs. And that is not liability. That is the reality that we all share the burden of consequences. Okay? If a driver does something that causes great harm to the company, and as a result, the company gets shut down or can't run or whatever, then we do all share in the consequences of each other's actions. I could be driving down the road, minding my own business, doing the best job that I have ever done, and the actions between dispatch and another driver that results in something else going really bad that has nothing to do with me, doesn't mean that I share in the liability of that. It means that I share in the consequences of that. Me doing something dumb and it affecting another driver because a rule needs to be changed in the company, like company policy, Doesn't mean that there is liability shared. It just means that there are shared consequences. Now, is it possible that other people other than the corporation / owner, depending on the situation, how the company's set up, and the driver, that other people could share liability? Absolutely. For example, if there is some kind of coercion, if I'm coerced into doing something that is against the law, and it is proven that that's what they're doing and they have done, and someone gets hurt or killed or major property damage or whatever, then not only will they try to hold me liable and the company liable, they will, if it can be proven that there was coercion, and someone tried to force me to do something wrong, then they're going to go after them too. So it is possible. Is it possible that if there is a safety situation and I call safety and safety disregards that situation, is it possible that in that specific situation that that person could also be held liable? Maybe so. Absolutely. But while my actions on the road can affect myself, fellow drivers, whether they are four-wheelers, two-wheelers, or professional drivers with however many wheels, they can affect the shipper or the receiver. They can affect people parked somewhere at night while I'm trying to park. They can affect dispatch, safety, the receptionist, corporate vice president of marketing. All of these people could share in the consequences of my action, and I, in some way, can and do share in the consequences of their actions. And let's not pretend that consequences are always bad. Sometimes those consequences are good, but liability, not so much. That's more of a specific thing that is shared between people. If I am held liable for something terrible out here on the road, you may very well face the consequences of that. But there is a very, very, very low, tiny percentage, unless you are actually directly involved in that situation, that you will be held liable for that in some way, shape, or form. And that's the difference. And that matters. That's a huge difference. And that's a big matters when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, I've talked to the guy. I want to be able to call up safety and say, hey, I'm at a dock. I'm not going to be able to get to safe and legal parking. I can't stay here. I would like you to make it in my electronic log to where when I do run out of time, that I can put myself in the personal conveyance in order to get to safe and legal parking. And I believe I should be able to make a call to safety. There should always be someone on duty somewhere answering calls to the safety line for stuff like that. And then they should be able to say, all right, that's activated. And then I go and I get there and I get to parking. And if they want to review it or do whatever and make sure that it's not being abused, that's their prerogative. And they can discipline people the way that they should be disciplined and do that. And I'm going to talk more in depth about the conversation I had with this very smart safety dude sometime later. But in the end, the answer is no. And then I just gotta notate it in my logbook. And then when they give me the verbal warning write-up that confirms that there was a verbal warning, I just got to note it again. And ultimately, It's just the corporation protecting itself and setting me up for the greater consequences. And that's something that we have to deal with no matter what the job is. Whether it's managing a restaurant, managing a hotel, working in a factory, working on a dock, being a teacher, or anything like that. And that's the kind of stuff that all of us share, no matter what career we're in. Heck, to an extent, if you're a stay-at-home mom or dad, you still face that kind of crap. So yeah. Well, today, the tea that I'm sipping on is English breakfast black tea. It's early enough in the morning. I'm getting unloaded at a tremendously awesome facility. Lots of room to get in, to back up. It didn't hurt that I was like one of the first people here. But yeah, look, I hope you all have a great day. Stay safe out there. And whenever you do stay calm, even when you think you're getting screwed. I'm going to talk more about that sometime later, about my overall change in attitude. And it might help you out too. All right, have a good day.